Alright guys, so this is a math video, just a little help video for trigonometry. Okay, so before we even start, it's important to think about all the things that go into what makes a triangle a triangle. Now I know that sounds kind of silly, but a triangle has three sides. So before we even start doing about trig, there's a couple things that we have to talk about first. And that is just the names of each side. So there's three names you can see on the screen: hypotenuse, the opposite, and the adjacent side. So it's important to know which side is which. So I always tell people start with the easy one. The hypotenuse up here, one second, here we go. The hypotenuse here, it's always the longest side, and it's always on the other side of the 90-degree angle. And that 90-degree angle, you can tell it always has the box here, and that's just showing that this side is 90 degrees. So the hypotenuse is always across from the 90-degree side, and it's also the longest. Now this is where sometimes it gets tricky, the opposite and the adjacent side, and truthfully I don't think it's that tricky. The opposite side, it's just the side opposite of the angle. So here's our angle, and don't be scared, ooh, it's an X, yeah, okay, there's an X there. But that's just saying, hey, there's some degree there. So the opposite side is opposite of the angle. There's our angle. Then the adjacent side, well, that's just the one left over. Okay, cool. So now we know the three sides of a triangle. The next thing we're going to talk about is our formulas that we're going to use. So in order to solve angles on the sides, we're going to use something called trig. And trig is just the relationship between sides to an angle. And all it says is just things grow at a certain ratio. So there's three different sides to a triangle. There's three different trig functions. They are sine, here's sine, there's cosine, and there's tangent. Okay, so those are the three trigonometric functions. There's a nice little acronym that we can use to remember all of our formulas, and that's called sohcahtoa. So if I write it here, it's sohcahtoa. Ooh, that's bad. Sohcahtoa. And those are our three functions. So the first one, so, that's how I can remember that sine of an angle is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse. Okay, I just wrote some tricky stuff down there. Might look a little scary. We'll start working out a couple practice problems, and it's not too bad, I promise. Okay, so just saying the sine of an opposite angle is equal to opposite over the hypotenuse. And the order matters, so make sure that O is on top, H is on the bottom. Okay, you'll notice that here I have sides. I have the opposite side, and I have the hypotenuse, right? So that's why it's important to know the sides of a triangle. Okay, the next trig function is cosine. So here's the cosine of an angle is equal to the adjacent side over the hypotenuse. And then finally the tangent. The tangent of an angle is equal to the opposite over the adjacent. Okay, lots of words. Let's do a practice. I promise you, it's not really that bad. Let's just do a practice problem here. All right, so here's our first practice problem. And let's start solving sides first. So let's say here's our triangle, and let's say that our angle is 36 degrees. 36 degrees. I'm going to say that this is 1415 millimeters long, and I want to find out this side, that side there. Okay, so there's a couple things before we even start doing a trigonometric function. The first thing we're going to do is make sure that our make sure that our calculator is in degrees. So you should be able to see a DEG on your calculator. If you turn it on, you should see DEG. That's for degrees. That's what you want. If you see a grad or a rad, you don't want that. Depending on the calculator, you might have to go in your menu and change it. Sometimes it's easier just to push the reset button. Most calculators default 2 degrees, so if you just hit that reset button, make sure you see the degrees, and you're good to go. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to write down sohcahtoa. Remember, that's our 3 functions. Okay, so now I'm setting my calculators in degrees. I got sohcahtoa there. I'm feeling good. Now I'm ready to solve my math problem. Which sides am I working with? Remember we went through that whole opposite side, hypotenuse side, adjacent side? This is where it matters because we have to figure out which trig function do I need to use. Okay, so remember, hey, this one, the one that I'm trying to find, this one here, that's on the opposite side, or sorry, the across the side from the 90 degree, from that square over here. So this is the hypotenuse. Okay, the one with the numbers over here, it's opposite the angle, so that's the opposite. Okay, so now I look over to my trig functions over here, and I say, okay, which trig function has an h and an o in it? Hey, sine has an h and an o in it. That's the one I use. Okay, so remember we said sine of an angle is equal to our opposite side. Remember, it matters which one's on top. So the opposite side is 1415, 1415 over the hypotenuse. We don't know that one. Okay. So we can start filling in some more numbers. I probably should have done that before. Oh well. So sine of 36 is equal to 1415 over, I don't know. Okay. So sometimes people have triangles and things like that. If you're trying to find this one on the bottom, then it's this 1415 divided by the sine of 36. And if you have a Casio FX260, you have to type it in a certain way. And if you have a different calculator, you might have to enter it differently. But on the Casio FX260, how I would enter this into my calculator is 1415 divided by 36 sine. Then I push equals. Okay, and I should get 2407. And it's 0.34178, but hey, in millimeters, we're just going to round. 0.3 of a millimeter, I don't think it's going to hurt anything too bad. Okay, so there we go. First one done. Okay, next question. Question number 2. So again, 2 things before I even start on my math problem. I make sure my calculator's in degrees. Hey, it is. I'm good. I'll write down sohcahtoa over here. Ooh, that's bad. Sohcahtoa. Good. Awesome. Great. And let's say again, I'm going to try to find a side or something. Let's say this one is 41 degrees. And let's say I want to try to find, this one. And I will say this one is, I don't know, 35 inches. Great. Okay, so my calculator's in degrees. I wrote down sohcahtoa. The first thing I got to do is decide which sides of the triangle am I working with. So again, hey, the one across from that square, this one over here, it's across from this square. I know that that's the hypotenuse. Okay, this is the tricky one. So remember we said the opposite side is opposite of the angle. So this is the opposite. The only thing is we don't have any information on that. The one we're trying to find is actually the adjacent side. So the 2 sides we're going to work with on this one is the hypotenuse and the adjacent. So now I just look over to my sohcahtoa, and I got to try to find something that has an H and an A in it. H and an A, so, oh, no, not so, yeah, that's cos of the angle is equal to the adjacent over the hypotenuse. Okay, so now I can just start throwing some numbers in there. Cosine of our angle is 41 degrees is equal to the adjacent, we don't know, over the hypotenuse, 35. Okay, so if you guys like the formula of triangles, then that's great. In order to find this one, I just multiply these two together, the bottom two, this one and this one. I just multiply them together. Okay, so again, if you have the Casio FX260, you're going to enter it in your calculator a certain way. And how you do that would be 41, I may as well do it, 41 cos times 35. And I don't have to push equals or anything. It just pukes out the answer. And that's 26.41 inches. Great. The only thing is that 0.41 inches. Do people say, hey, cut me a nipple at, I guess it wouldn't be a nipple, cut me a piece of pipe at 26.41 inches? No. Most people go to a 1/16 of an inch. So how do I convert that 0.41 to a 1/16 of an inch? I just take away the whole, so I would minus 26. I'm left with the decimal, that 0.41 number, and I times that by 16. And I get 6.63736 blah 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 blah. That rounds up to 7. So I could say 26 and 7/16 of an inch. Great. Okay, the rest of these questions I probably won't explain too much. I'll just solve them. Okay, question 3. Let's say this one is 53 degrees. Let's say we're going to try to find this one. And this side is 56 centimeters. 56 centimeters. Okay, so again, before I start, my calculator's in degrees. I write down sohcahtoa. Which sides am I working with? I'm working with the adjacent. This is the adjacent over here. I may as well write down adjacent. Adjacent, this is the opposite. Great, that's going to be tangent. Okay, so tangent of 53 is equal to my opposite side, which is 56, over my adjacent side. I don't know what that is. Okay, so in order to find the bottom one, I go 56 divided by the tan of 53. And again, if you have the Casio FX260, then it would be 56 divided by 53 tan. So 56 divided by 53 tan, and I have to push equals 42 point, ooh, tricky, 42.2 centimeters. Oh, not 2. I'll just do this. I screwed up. Centimeters. Okay, great. Okay, so let's do one where I have to find the angle. Okay, so let's say we don't know the angle. Ooh, tricky. And let's say that this side is 1555. This one is 1400. Okay, how would I find the angle? I would actually do this the exact same way as finding a side. Again, I make sure my calculator's in degrees. It says DEG, I'm good. I write down sohcahtoa. Sohcahtoa. Boom. Which sides am I working with? This one's across from the 90. This one over here, oops. So that's the hypotenuse. Great. This one's kind of beside the angle. That's the adjacent side. I have hypotenuse and adjacent. Hey, I'm going to use that cosine. So remember, cosine of our angle is equal to the adjacent side over the hypotenuse. Great. Okay, now we just plug our numbers in. The only thing is this time we don't know. We don't know what the angle is, but we know both sides. So the adjacent is 1400. The hypotenuse is 1555. Now, I'm going to save you guys the lesson in algebra, and I'll just tell you how to solve it. How you do this is, it would be 1400 divided by 1555 equals, and then we have to isolate the variable, and to do that, on the Casio FX260, you go Shift and that cos button. You'll notice that's the -1. And again, I'll save you guys the algebra lesson, but basically, if you multiply something by its reciprocal, you get 1. So it just makes it go away. Okay, so in order to do this one, I would go 1400 divided by 1555, and I'll push equals, divided by Shift cos. Okay, and I don't have to push equals or anything like that, and it just tells me it's 25.8 degrees. Okay, let's do another one. Let's do another find the degree. I want to start using a little bit. So that's the Greek letter theta. Let's do 100. Let's say this is longer. 110. Why not? Okay. So again, how I figure this one out is I make sure my calculator's in degrees. I write down sohcahtoa, ooh, writing big. Toa, ooh, that's bad. Toa, ooh. There. Okay, which sides am I working with? I am working with the adjacent and the opposite. So I look for adjacent and opposite, and that's going to be tangent. Okay, so now I can write the tangent of, I don't know, is equal to my opposite, which is 100, over my adjacent side, which is 110. So again, to figure this out, 100 divided by 110 equals Shift tan. We should get 42.3 degrees. All right, let's do, I don't know what to do. Let's say we're trying to find this one. Let's see that this is, sure, why not? And this is 29 degrees. Okay, so again, my calculator's in degrees. I write down sohcahtoa, sohcahtoa, great. Which sides am I working with? I'm working with the adjacent and the hypotenuse. Adjacent and the hypotenuse. So that's going to be cosine. Okay, so the cosine of 29 is equal to the adjacent side. Hey, we don't know what that is. Or the hypotenuse, 111. Okay, again, in order to find the top one, I just multiply these two together. So it'd be 29 cos times 1111. You should get 972. Cool. All right. Let's say that this is 38. It's a weird looking 8. 38. 38 degrees. Let's say this is 14. And I'm trying to find this one. Okay, so calculators in degrees. Great. I write down sohcahtoa, sohcahtoa. Ooh, great. Which sides am I working with? I'm working with the opposite side and the hypotenuse. Hypotenuse. Okay, so which trig function has opposite and hypotenuse? Sine. Okay, so it's going to be sine of 38 is equal to our opposite side, 14, over our hypotenuse. We don't know what that is. So again, to figure out this one, I would go 14 divided by 38 cos. So it would be 14 divided by 38. Whoops, I think I said cos. I meant sine, 38 sine. And you should get 22.7. Well, let's try to find an angle. Let's say that this is 2150 and this is 3500. Let's use some big numbers, why not? Okay, and then I'll throw an x in there. Ooh, x degrees, that's tricky. Okay, calculators in degrees. I write down sohcahtoa, sohcahtoa. Boom, boom. Okay, I got the opposite side. That's this one. Opposite. I got the adjacent side. Up here, adjacent. Which one has opposite and adjacent in it? Tangent. This one. Boom. Okay, so it's going to be tangent of x is equal to our opposite side, 35 hundo, over 2150. 2150. Great. Okay, and again, to find the angle, I would go 3500. 3500 divided by 2150 equals shift tan. Shift tan. So that would be 58 degrees. All right. Let's say, let's make it real tricky. Now we're going to up the ante here a little bit. Let's say that this is, I don't know, 46 degrees. Let's say that this is 15 centimeters. Ooh, this is going to be tricky. I don't want this one, but I want it in millimeters. Ooh, tricky. Okay, so anytime I see different units, truthfully, I just convert them right away. I convert everything right away, then that way I'm done with it. You could kind of do your question and solve it in centimeters, then convert at the end. That's fine. You're not wrong. I just find if I do it right away, I don't forget later on, because sometimes people are in hurries to do math tests to show off how smart they are, and they'll forget little things like this. So if you see different units, just convert right away. So since I want my answer to be in millimeters, I'll convert this 15 centimeters to millimeters. Okay, I'll do that right off the cuff, and that's just 150 mils. Great. Now the same units, life's good. Okay, just like before, calculators in degrees. I write down sohcahtoa, sohcahtoa. Great. Which sides am I working with? I'm working with the opposite side and the hypotenuse. Hypotenuse. The O and the H, hey, that's going to be sine. So it's sine of 46. Don't forget I want to use the millimeter one. So the sine of 46 is equal to the opposite, which is 150, over I don't know. Okay, and then remember to solve this one, to solve this, I would go 150 divided by 46 sine. Okay, so 150 divided by 46 sine equals, and you should get 209 millimeters. Okay, big question 10. Let's say that this is, what should we say this one is? Let's say this is, let's say we don't know what this one is. Let's say it's x degrees. Okay, and then let's say this is 100. We don't know that side. Okay, so just like before, Calculators in degrees. Sohcahtoa. Boom. Okay, which sides am I working with? I'm working with the opposite and the hypotenuse. Opposite and hypotenuse. Which one has the O and the H in it? Boom. Sine again. Sine of I don't know is equal to my opposite. Oh, I screwed this one up. Hold on here. You can't solve this one. I screwed up. Let's say this is, it has to be smaller. It's 80. 80 over 100. Okay, my bad. Screwed this one up big time. Don't hang me. Okay, so anyway, 80 over 100. Shift sign. Let's see, 80 and 100 equals shift sign. Should get 53 degrees. Okay, I want to show you guys something, and let's just see what happens. Okay, so let's say I'm trying to find this one. And let's say that this is 90 and this is 30. Okay, this is tricky. So I guess we could try to solve it. Well, why don't you solve it? You can pause the video and you can try to solve it. And then before you get too angry, you can unpause and I'll tell you kind of the answer. So remember we said the hypotenuse is always the longest, and the hypotenuse is the one that's across from the square. This one. So remember, the hypotenuse always has to be the longest. It's shorter here. It can't be shorter, which means this triangle does not exist. So we can try to do it. Again, my calculator's in degrees, and I'll write down sohcahtoa. Okay, I'm working with the adjacent and the hypotenuse. That's going to be cosine. So it'll be cos of I don't know is equal to the adjacent, which is 90 over 30. Okay, and let's just see what happens. 90 divided by 30 equals shift cos. And on my calculator, I get this. Error. It says, hey, you're trying to do something that doesn't exist, because this has to be the longest side. Has to be. Okay, so sometimes some people might throw a curveball at you, and just be prepared for that. It's also a nice check. Later we'll do offsets and things like that, and just remember the hypotenuse is always the longer one. Then this kind of saves a little headache going forward. Okay, question 12. Let's say we're trying to find the angle, and this is 4611. This is 5,100. Let's say millimeters. Okay, so again, calculators in degrees. Sohcahtoa. Boom. Which sides am I working with? I'm working with the opposite. Here's my opposite. And the hypotenuse. Hypotenuse. Boom. Well, when it's opposite on hypotenuse, sine. Okay, so it's going to be sine of I don't know is equal to the opposite side, 4611, over the hypotenuse, 5100. Okay, so to solve this, I would go 4611 divided by 5100 equals shift sine, and you get 65 degrees. Okay, and I think that's probably a wrap. If you guys have any questions, let me know.